Hey yo, what's good? Welcome to The Gist with me, Jared. And I've got a special guest here with me today. He's making his annual visit to the channel. Say what's up to the people, Jed.
Yo, what up, people? It's your boy Jed, aka B-Boy Sweaty Jetty. Happy to be here again.
Well, Jed, we are talking about Avatar The Last Airbender Season 2 on Netflix today. To be honest, I wasn't really enthusiastic about re-engaging with this show. If you think back to our Season 1 review from quite a few years ago, I would say I wasn't the most enthusiastic about that adaptation, even though you, me, and Jager, who unfortunately won't be joining us on the program today, all three of us kind of had a pretty positive view of the adaptation from Book 1 into a live-action Season 1. Though again, me being the most critical. So Jed, we're going to go into first non-spoiler detail here for the Season 2 adaptation. This is the Avatar The Last Airbender Book 2 adaptation into the live action for Season 2.
Right.
They had already restructured the events from all three books into the first season of the live action, and that was a big pain point for us in the first season, in Season 1, because we thought that even though there were good things I had added into the series, like Zuko's battalion being a compelling point for his plot line, and we saw Sozin's comment and the backstory on that, but overall, we had mixed feelings about how they restructured the story for Season 1. So, Jed, what are your non-spoiler thoughts on Season 2 for Avatar The Last Airbender live action?
Non-spoiler. I don't like how they're doing this show, at the least to say. I think that, if Jager was the most charitable, me in the middle, and then you most critical, I'm slowly, from Season 1 up until now, it's starting to slowly go from me into quite critical as well. I think that it's almost a nice homage to the original cartoon series, what they're trying to do with the live action, but man, I don't like the execution. I don't like how they were doing all these kinds of things, and it almost felt like they were only just doing these things like, hey, look, we mentioned this or we said that, and it's like, okay, this almost does not make any sense for what we're going for. And I can respect how they, like, to a degree, it's the live action. They have to kind of do things a little bit differently than a 30-minute cartoon episode that can go on for seasons and seasons and go on for many episodes. But the way that it went down, I just, maybe the Avatar Last Airbender cartoon purist that I am, I didn't like it that much. And I found myself watching the very cynical eye as opposed to a very excited eye. And that can show when we talk about spoilers later.
Wow, that's kind of surprising because, again, you were the one who wanted to dive back into this series, even though, like we said earlier, we all had our criticisms from Season 1. But yeah, I would agree with you. Unfortunately, this seems like a show that was basically made for clicks, made for
that's a good way.
Clip farming online, as the young kids would say. It seems like they wanted to shoot the scenes that would get a lot of hype, like you saw the final battle between Azula, Katara, Aang, and Zuko, and then you saw their first battle, and then you saw Serpent's Way, which kind of mirror the animated series, but it's the events in between that lead up to it that lack all the context and substance from the animated show, and it's really to the live action's detriment. They wanted to show that, hey, it seems like we're being faithful to the animated series because you're seeing the events, and if you're scrolling through your phone while having this on the background, second screening it, you'll see, oh yeah, look, it's Aang fighting Zuko, kind of like he did in the animated series. But if you're actually paying attention and watching the show episode to episode, paying attention to the dialogue, you realize how hollow and honestly misguided this live action adaptation was.
Agreed. There's a weird. I was trying to figure out the best way to phrase it up until this point, and I think you kind of hit the nail on the head with they're just trying to clip farm, or it's almost like they put these significant things from the cartoon just willy-nilly into the story, hoping that it would provide the same value and depth that the cartoon did. But ultimately, I thought it was lacking all of that. I think that those things were almost nice to kind of see in the live action, but what the cartoon has over the live action is the context, the deeper meaning behind these bigger things that ultimately lead you to have connections with these characters that when things happen in the live action, it ultimately dropped. And then I was just thinking to myself, okay, I guess that's happening, but I didn't feel it as much as I did with the cartoon. I wasn't needing to pause the live action and, assemble myself after what was going on, as opposed to the cartoon where things would happen and I would feel for these characters and I would feel for the connection that we had, and I would feel really involved in the story. Versus with the live action, man, y'all are just doing things just to do them. Like, there's almost like bits and pieces that you can almost grab exactly from the cartoon into the live action, and you can see the difference in execution, and it's just like that didn't hit at all for me. Versus in the cartoon, I was in shambles after certain things happened, and that the fact that those things just didn't happen with live action the way that they were doing it, right. I almost have to say, if they do make that final season 3 or whatever, I feel like we almost have to watch it just to have like that closure.
Oh no! I mean, it's probably gonna come out in like another 2 to 3 years, because obviously they left it on a cliffhanger, and it seems like they budgeted it to finish the show, because they did allude that season 3 is coming. But
yep,
I think you're right. We'll probably have to finish it up just because we're already in too deep, and to see how much they screwed up this adaptation. But speaking of that, I wanted to get your thoughts on whether you think this is a good adaptation of the animated show, and if it's a faithful adaptation of the animated series.
Okay, so I feel like the question has a little bit of a two areas that we can kind of explore. So we have the faithfulness and whether or not it was good.
Yeah.
And I can say for sure that the live action sucked. But speaking of things that suck, you know what doesn't? These threads that we have from at Neptune, I think their handle is on IG. They're a Germany-based anime streetwear brand that prides itself on faithful adaptations and incarnations of the animes that we all know and love. Of course, we're wearing the Avatar: The Last Airbender Drop 1 collection. Well, there's also as of now, we're filming on July 4th, down in America. They are dropping Avatar Collection Drop 2 on July 17th. It's kind of a pre-order situation. They do not sponsor this channel, but I mean, hey, Neptune, if you want to.
I don't know if they'll want to after our criticisms of the live action, but
we have criticisms of live action, but we don't really have criticisms of these nice jackets. I think this jacket material, it's a smooth suede. It feels very comfortable. I think it's very styling. As you can see, we have different jackets for each different element, and Drop 2 is even more promising as well. They haven't just done Avatar: Last Airbender. I saw that they also did Hunter x Hunter. I think that they are a pretty dope anime streetwear brand that I'll be looking into more and more as they drop more. Like, hopefully they drop Dragon Ball Z or Super or something. I'd be very interested. But, in having a adaptation that kind of sucked, having these clothes that don't kind of make me feel better about it. But if we're talking about the faithfulness of the show now, I think they were pretty faithful to a certain degree. It almost kind of coincides for me. It can be faithful, but it can also kind of suck, but it can also be not faithful, and then it might be pretty good. I think you can kind of see that with The Last of Us. I know we've talked about that adaptation as well, and I would have to say it wasn't really faithful. They kind of did their own thing to a certain degree, but it didn't suck. With what they did, it was a really nice exploration of the Last of Us universe. I know we may disagree on that one. Please.
Season 1 was okay. I gave up on season 2.
Gotcha. Good to know. That's totally fine.
And I don't think you even gave it a shot. Okay. Continue.
But then you come to Avatar: Last Airbender live action season 2, and although I could say it was pretty faithful, like the things that they did were in the cartoon as well, it sucked. It didn't go through in the same way that the cartoon did, and that really hurt to me, because Avatar: Last Airbender is really close to my heart. Grew up watching it as a kid, and now me and my girlfriend, actually, shout out to my baby Allison, she is slowly getting into anime and cartoons, and we finished Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. And due to its notoriety, due to its significance in my life, Avatar: Last Airbender is up next, even though that's not necessarily anime, maybe. Drop in the comments down below if we think Avatar: Last Airbender is a cartoon or an anime. Anyways, we'll be watching that next. And I don't even really want her to watch the live action, because I found myself having to tell her, don't believe this, don't watch this, don't watch this. Like, it's not what it'll be in the cartoon. And that almost hurts me to say, but I have to be honest when I give the gist of the show to these people, you know?
Yeah, I appreciate your honesty, because I would agree that it's not a good adaptation. Just because you can showcase the events that animated characters did with real people and tons of CGI, the substance of it is really bad, because you don't get what matters, and that's the story. And there are attempts to be faithful with mirroring events and lines of dialogue from the animated series to the show. But again, when you lack the substantive value of the story and the context and all the events leading into one another that made the animated series so fulfilling, it's just a bad show overall. And I think it's really unfortunate that there's a lot of people now who are basically, in Hollywood I would say too, that are obsessed with making things that are animated live action. And it's not actually true live action, because there's so much CGI anyway that you're basically just animating it with people. And I think when you take an animated show, there's a lot of suspension of disbelief that you give to it, because a lot of the stylings are very exaggerated. The emotions are ultra expressive in a way that a human face can't do. And you can't move like how Azula and Zuko and Aang moved in the animated series. And even though Zuko in the live action, I assume the actor did some of his combat, and he was still doing martial arts and acrobatics, so that's respectable for sure. But again, when you lack the substance of the story and the character development, it really falls flat. And I wanted to bring that up because there's tons of adaptations that we've had, like Invincible, and we've had our discussions on that before privately. And there's been plenty of others that when you have a really great source material, like, I know you don't watch it, but House of the Dragon, well, that one's a little rough right now. Season 3 is kind of rough. But A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, it's probably my favorite show that released so far. And it's pretty much a one-to-one adaptation from the novella book series to the live action show. And they added things in the live action that enhanced the source material, that made it better, that made moments in the book ring in a deeper and more compelling way. But then you have examples like this show where they're trying to do that thing, but they miss the mark, honestly. And we've seen that in the MCU, where the events in Civil War are vastly different to how it plays out in the comics or even the games. So I think it's really unfortunate that this series didn't live up to the animated series excellence. And obviously I'm the more critical one of the bunch, so it's not like the animated series was absolute perfection and has no areas of improvement. And that's what this show could have done. Instead of trying to reconfigure your own story to maybe tell the same thing, but recontextualize and reorganize the events in such a way that kind of break the story, they could have, what I was hoping they would have done would expand on moments a little longer. Like when Iroh is teaching Zuko, add a few more lines of dialogue to make those lessons seem impactful. And obviously Iroh in the animated series, he's a little way more wacky than I think an older sage wisdom guy would be. So maybe you dial that back for the live action, but we'll get to it more later. They really messed up this character, and I'm really not trying to curse because there was one moment in the show that really got me close to cursing at the screen, and even our dog was like freaking out because he's like, "What are you doing?"
Oh,
but
buddy.
before we get into the criticisms, of which we have many about this show, was there anything positive that you can take away just from season 2? Any favorite moments you had about the... Ooh, look at that face. That's a face of disapproval. What you got, Jed?
Gosh, Jared, your question is whether or not I had good moments or things that I enjoyed from season 2. I don't think I did. I don't think I enjoyed it like at all. Even the moments in season 2 that I look upon in favor in the cartoon, it's not the same. I'm like, I love this time in the cartoon, but here in the live action, it's like, like, no, brother, like, why would you do it that way? I think maybe there can be something said for, to a degree, the combat, and I will actually say I did like the bending to a certain degree. I think the way that they were able to kind of show how martial arts and element bending kind of work together in the cartoon. There's a degree of similarity with the live action as well, but that's not like saying much. Like
I know
it's still better than the movie that we don't talk about, but the way that it felt that there was more respect than that with the live action in terms of having a martial arts route to the elemental bending styles and how they kind of incorporate the two together. The live action was able to kind of do that, like, not terribly, right? I think I found myself kind of interested in the combat scenes. I mean, when we saw non-elemental bending combat, with melee weapons and to some degree, that was pretty cool. But everything else was just a little bit lacking. And I'm even thinking back to, the main, I guess you can argue, like, the antagonist in the season 2 live action. I still don't think they did that well. I wasn't...
Long Fang?
Yes, I wasn't scared of Long Fang or intimidated of Long Fang as much as I was in the cartoon than I was in the live action. I think... I was like, man, this dude Long Fang in the live action, he just looks like some like a doormat, just being walked over by everything. And I'm like, there's no intellectual battle really. It's just kind of what kind of blackmail can I get on somebody? And there wasn't really anything behind the scenes of what makes Long Fang a compelling villain in the cartoon versus in the live action, where he's just trying to almost one-dimensional, I'd almost say. I think this is like a new level of analysis for me, but there was too many bad things versus good things for me in this season.
Well, on Long Fang, I think they tried to make him sympathetic because he was introduced as like this endearing and friendly guy. It's like, oh, what are they doing here? Are they really going to make Long Fang a good guy?
I was almost convinced.
And then they tried to make him bad because that's what they did in the animated series. But then at the end, and we'll get into more spoilers here, but obviously if you're watching this, you probably watched season 2 anyway. But that final interaction he has with Aang, they try to make him sympathetic again, but it really falls flat because you just don't buy in to the character at all. So I would agree with you that this show was really hard to be charitable to. And I know as we were talking while we were watching it, I watched the entire season, then I watched the animated book 2, then I rewatched this season again to make sure that I wanted to make sure that I wasn't assessing it from what it's not. Because obviously they're trying to do their own thing in this live action adaptation. And it's really hard to disassociate when you know about the animated series and how those events play out, and to separate that from what they're doing in the live action. Because they're telling their own story, But it's almost odd because it's like you're trying to tell your own story, but you're also trying to win the fans' favor by showing us the events and the scenes and the interactions that we know from the animated show. But like we talked about earlier, it doesn't work because you're missing the context and all the character build-up to make those events matter. So really low-hanging fruit. The costuming is still good. They really tried to make the like Azula's menacing song, like her score, the it was there, and I noticed it in my second watch of the live action. But again, when you see the character, it's just a turnoff. I'm just like, you're not Azula.
You're not Azula. You're not my Azula.
you're it's empty, you know? So it's really unfortunate that there's really nothing you can say positive. Like, yeah, some of the CGI was good, some of it was bad, some of the martial arts was good, but then when you think about it in context of the story, doesn't really make sense. Especially after having watched The Furious, and it's those martial arts stuff is on my mind and how well that's executed. And those guys are obviously experts, but some of the combat in here is like, oh, okay, it lacks some meaning. But now let's get
watch The Furious. Definitely gotta.
Oh
watch
yeah, you should.
Yep, absolutely.
As soon as possible.
Yep.
But now that we've got some non-spoiler things out of the way, obviously we're not positive on this show whatsoever. Let's get into the things that we're most frustrated with, the things that we really didn't like, and I would dare say, what did we hate about this season 2 adaptation? Jed, I'll start with you.
We going like spoilers route now?
Absolutely. Spoiler ahead.
Spoilers. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, buckle in, because I'm about to call me the Fire Nation. I'm about to say, call me the Fire Nation the way I'm about to flame these fools, all right? No, number one, characterization. I like Sokka the most. Why did they make him like an idiot in this live action versus like the tactical genius he is in the cartoon? I almost had to pause and like take a breath because of how much jokes they were making in the live action about how stupid he is and how like, oh, Sokka, you always make a plan and it never works. And then in the cartoon, he's always the guy with the plan. He's always the strategic mind. He's the one who, he may not be the bender, but he's the one who knows how to use everybody's strengths and weaknesses well enough to where they can execute together. Like, I would almost argue he's the glue of Team Avatar, because he's the one who's always thinking forward, always the one being ready for whatever is next, and even the one who is the comedic relief to a certain degree in the cartoon. And then you go to live action, and he's some type of oaf. He's some type of like idiot that doesn't know how to make a plan, or he does and nobody believes in him. I hated that so much. I was like, where is this disrespect for my boy Sokka coming from? How dare you?
Well, that's the thing. They really screwed up his character. And when I rewatch book 2, obviously, yes, this is a show geared towards kids. So you're going to have the moments that are very silly, meant to be comedic. But there's also a level of maturity that Sokka has and he develops throughout book 2. Because like you said, he is the growing strategist. And a big plot line for him throughout season 1, book 1, and book 2 in the animated show is how much he wants to prove his dad that he is a man, that he was trustworthy to watch over their Southern Water Tribe, right?
Yeah, Southern.
And unfortunately, you don't get that payoff in this season, because animated show, it's back-ended with Sokka meeting his dad and proving himself to be a strategist. And there's even a moment of doubt that he has with his dad when they see that the Fire Nation is nearby and they're gonna commandeer one of their ships. He's like, okay, well, what do you want me to do? Then Sokka's dad, he says, didn't you hear me? I said, men, suit up and let's go and execute the mission that they've been planning on, which he's involved in. So you don't get that payoff, that there's that level of affirmation, that level of fulfillment and validation is the word that I was looking for, that Sokka gets from his dad, that yes, he is the man that he was trying so hard to be, and sometimes he fell on his face. But that's obviously what makes an interesting character. And then the second point that I had about Sokka was there's like no romance and love in the show. Him and Suki, they don't consummate their relationship at all in the live action. And I'm not meaning actual sex. but they don't kiss. And Sokka, he's moping around for half the season, so hung up on Yue. And again, we are comparing it to the animated show that did it very well. He's so heartbroken with Yue. And when they have that moment in the animated series where he meets Suki again, he owns up and says that he had his heart broken by something that happened with the Northern Water Tribe. Because she tries to go in for a kiss and affection, but he pulls back.
Like Sokka like backs up and like then right. That's I don't mean to interrupt, but that whole thing about Sokka moping around like every single episode about it, and then being like, oh, I don't know, like what am I supposed to do? I kind of didn't like it when they did that because it felt like, oh, this is their obligatory mental health matters and talk to people when you like really need help or something like that. I didn't like it. Okay, but hold on before you flame me in the comments. All right, I do support therapy. I do think mental health matters and that kind of thing, but the execution of it, I did not like at all. I think that potentially a better character to have done that with is potentially Zuko and Azula when they talk about their mom. Like, I think that was a much more deserving subject of having to, you know, explore the mental health. I mean, he has a physical manifestation of his trauma on his face from his dad, but instead they decided to go make it with Sokka, who's supposed to be the lighthearted brains of Team Avatar, but now he has this whole thing that he can't talk to Suki with, or he can't talk to Kataro with, or something like that. And it just was so blatantly like in your face, and you could see it coming from a mile away. And him and Suki was trying her best to be great, which, you know, hey, I remember my feelings about Suki in the first season, but you know, we're all good now. Like, it was too obvious for me that it was becoming like an issue, and I don't like how that is executed in some media nowadays. Of like, yes, we know this whole topic is important and it's valid, but you don't need to be so brazenly outright about it. And it just Sokka the whole thing with Sokka just really.
Well, not only that, because let me do some Q&A with you, Jed. Pop quiz. Yes. So Serpent's Pass is episode 1 in season 2 live action.
Yep.
Now, in the animated show, I won't grill you on how many episodes there are. There are 18 episodes in the animated show.
Yeah.
What episode number do you think Serpent's Way was in the animated show?
What episode? Like, which in the 18?
Out of 18, yeah.
3.
Episode 12.
12. Oh, shoot.
So by the time you get to that point in the animated show, you're more than halfway through the series.
Oh, okay.
So what happens is they recontextualize the events, that you don't see Sokka being built up as a character from episodes 1 through 11 like you did in the animated show. And then there are plenty of violations that I'll get here in a bit with Serpent's Pass.
Yeah.
But when the moment he meets Suki, he's obviously had time to think about and wrestle with losing Yue in the animated show.
Okay.
But then he still has that moment of drawback with Suki. So Sokka, in the live action show, when he meets Suki, he doesn't tell her about what he's feeling with Yue. He's a coward in that whole interaction. And then when you see it at the end of the show, he meets Suki again, and then he kisses her because they have that whole interaction about how she's going back to be with the Kyoshi warriors. But then he kisses her to affirm their actual relationship, because he's still struggling with letting her be a strong woman, but not protecting her in a way that disvalues her training. Right. So it's a really unfortunate interaction that happens with Sokka. And then even more so when you get to the library, he's not the one who figures out the Day of Black Sun. He's not the one who figures out all the strategical advantages that the rebellion can have against the Fire Nation. It's Toph who figures it out. It's Sai who figures it out. So they take away moments from Sokka and give it to other characters that basically don't need to have that moment at all. Go ahead.
But, well, on that point about the spiritual library, they were just given the answers. There was no figuring it out. There was no working the thing to find the exact like date or something. Wasn't it that Toph just got like a vision from Avatar Kyoshi?
Somehow she can
reason?
speak to an avatar.
Yeah, somehow
when
she
she's
can
not the
speak to an
avatar.
Oh, right? Just because she's
And
a
somehow
photon?
she knows what the Chinese characters are, even though she's blind. And somehow she can bend what those characters are, even though that she wouldn't know what those look like. She's a blind person who was born blind. How would she know what the Chinese character looks like? It just does not make sense.
Wait, no, didn't they do Braille for her? Like Chinese Braille?
No, when she meets Aang, she bends in the ground. Sorry.
Oh,
she
right.
Bends
She bends in the ground.
she shows characters that are basically
Right.
in Chinese or Mandarin, whatever language that they have in the Avatar universe. And then Kyoshi's diary is the one that she's reading, which Kyoshi's not writing in Braille. So she's writing in her own language because that's what King Kui reads when they meet King Kui at the end. So she knows how to read Chinese characters. She knows how to... It just does not make sense. Like, it's a detail that they didn't realize that it violates the show. 'Cause she's a blind person. Do you know what I'm saying?
I thought I thought it was I was under the impression it was under the system of like their system of Braille. Like Toph, probably with her parents having all these resources, like found some people who have been able to like teach her like the feeling of like Chinese
A Chinese
Braille.
character?
Yeah, like I get it'd be very like fine-tuned or something, but I couldn't tell you for sure. I don't know if Braille is a universal thing or if there's like specific like versions of it that have like different countries associated with it. You know how there's American Sign Language, Spanish Sign Language, right? I don't know if Braille is a universal thing, but I'll be honest, I wasn't watching as closely as you were, and I just chalked it off as, oh yeah, she's been taught Braille in Chinese. Like,
Well, yeah, there was also that earthbending lady who was able to change the color by earthbending. She remember when it's like the remember their names, like that.
Yes, and then like on the wall, she just
That's
put in,
way
like,
on the nose about recent political things here in America. So she says, remember their names, the ones we lost to the Fire Nation. And when she's bending it on the walls of Ba Sing Se, one of the names and statements that she bends, it changes colors. It goes from stone to red because the name of the episode was like something about like names and blood from the sand or something, or blood from stone is what it said. But it changes from like the stone color to a red color because blood.
Huh. A little on the nose. I probably was not paying attention because I was kind of over it.
Yeah,
to a certain
it was
degree. Oh man,
it was definitely hard to stay engaged for sure. All right, Jed. So they really screwed up Sokka, but it sounds like you got somebody else that you didn't like in the show.
Number 2, Iroh. Uncle Iroh is a point of character that I kind of hold close to my heart nowadays in things that I need to do in my daily life. And for example, like what I mean by that, Goku, Vegeta, workout inspiration and, making sure I'm doing the best. Simon the Digger and Kamina from Gurren Lagann, always striving to go forward. All my Deku, like Kirishima, being the best hero and saving others, like all that kind of stuff, right?
Big anime guy right here.
What's that?
I was just saying you're a big anime guy.
Oh,
keep going.
Just a little bit. And then it comes Uncle Iroh from Avatar: The Last Airbender with all of his wisdom and proverbs and his whole thing about being basically a warlord and then becoming a man of peace. And the proverbs he comes up with. Oh, what's funny, what comes to mind is when Zuko is pretending to be him, he's like, you must look within yourself to find yourself and then your true self. But all I can remember is, actually with that in mind is in the cartoon when he finds Zuko, who finds Appa in Ba Sing Se, and he's like, Zuko, I'm begging you, Prince Zuko, who are you and what do you want? Where's that depth with this Uncle Iroh? I feel like Iroh hasn't even called Zuko Prince Zuko this entire time or something. Or even Zuko doesn't even call him uncle. He just calls him like Iroh or just berates him every single opportunity that he gets. And I'm like, what is this choice of relationship that we chose? that we chose to have for Zuko and Uncle Iroh in this live action. Like, I look upon the cartoon relationship very fondly, and I just don't get the same depth with this Iroh and this, I guess, like by proxy, this Zuko in the live action. And it makes me like fearful of moments of when Zuko gets really sick after choosing to be good. Like, that didn't hit as it did in the cartoon, as it did, or that doesn't hit as hard in the live action as it did in the cartoon. And what really like pissed me off this season in terms of that relationship, when like Iroh's teaching Zuko about the 4 elements and how waterbenders are people of change, right? Earthbenders are people of resilience. Fire is the element of change and power. Air is all about like flow, I guess. Zuko doesn't need to be engaged at all. He's like not paying attention. He's like, oh, just how can I shoot lightning? Versus in the cartoon, it becomes a moment of Zuko needs to grow and mature in his firebending and himself in order to defeat Azula. And then, like you said earlier about like, Uncle Iroh's wackiness, like, oh, I called in my stomach the city of Chi when I redirect lightning.
Oh, I'm not gonna throw lightning at you.
It just didn't hit, and it almost was like a bastardization of it. I'm like, you take this significant moment of where Iroh shows his depth of bending knowledge from learning about other cultures, and you just like gloss over it in this way. I was almost fuming, like smoke out the ears.
It's a little more sinister because in the live action, Iroh says he made up the technique. In the animated series, he says he learned it by studying the waterbenders. So in the live action, he says, "Oh yeah, I watched the waterbenders, but then I made this up all by myself." And like you said, the context for that moment is entirely different because Zuko and Iroh, they're basically living off the land, and it's the softening of Zuko, and he realizes that he needs more to defeat Azula because they totally forgot about their entire confrontation when Azula is first introduced in animated book 2, that she deceives them. So she's already shown to be this conniving, cunning, subversive character, but then one of her generals messes up and calls them prisoners, and that's what leads to the first confrontation between Zuko and Azula. And they get out by the skin of their teeth because Iroh was able to deflect Zuko's lightning, and then
Azula's.
Wow. Iroh was able to redirect Azula's lightning, and then he throws her off the boat. They're able to get away from Azula and her battalion of firebenders. And then it's Zuko who wants to learn from Iroh to become a better firebender, to learn techniques to match and possibly beat Azula. Yeah. And like you said, it's an entirely different context because Zuko, he's kind of like dumbfounded by, he's like, why do I need to learn? Why do I need to learn about all the other nations? Isn't this Avatar stuff? And then Iroh, in his wisdom, he's probably one of the few people that are not the Avatar that learn techniques from other tribes and benders. And it's to Zuko's advantage. But then you still see in the animated show how Zuko still conflicts, and there are plenty of other attempts in the animated show to soften Zuko to make him a more compelling villain and really make the redemption arc in book 3 way more compelling. But then here, he's really mischaracterized by being way too much of a jerk and way too belligerent. And honestly, they make Zuko talk way too much in the live action. He doesn't talk that much in the animated show. And it's to the live action's detriment that they give him way too many lines and they make him come across as way more immature, childish, and really vindictful, when that's not really how he is in the animated show. In the animated show, yes, he's a jerk, but he's very conflicted about who his dad wants him to be and the kind of man that his mom believes he should be, Iroh believes he should be, but then the kind of man that he wants to be within himself. But we'll get to Zuko here in a bit. But back to the whole Iroh, it really pissed me off that they really made him basically a spineless, traumatized coward in the show. When we get the Lu Ten leave from the vine,
they screwed that up.
They screwed it up.
Because
if
I may real quick, the whole tales of Bossing Say they decided to just sprinkle in for everybody. No, absolutely not.
Messed it up.
How dare you? How dare you do this to my son? Like, it was so like I could tell what they were doing, but they just weren't doing it right. Like, the Tales of Bossing Say episode was probably one of the most influential and most significant things in the cartoon. And then here they just
it starts off, you think that episode is just filler because it's the girls, they're getting their nails done, their faces did,
makeup,
but then in all those moments it builds the characters. So you get Iroh, his backstory with Lieutenant, and then that's the first time we see Iroh show that level of emotion, because in the animated show he's just this kind of silly, oftentimes wise, very obsessed with tea, sage-like wisdom figure for Zuko and basically the series. But then what you see in the in that sequence in the Tales of Bossing Say is where his sadness comes from, and it's that glimpse of why he's had that change of heart. And then in the live action, they totally recontextualize it and make one, they show him not wanting to go to Bossing Say and that he's traumatized to go back to the place that changed his identity as a person and as a character.
Yep.
And you were going to go say more about it, so I'll let you have the floor.
No, I appreciate it. It just keeps, man, we can just keep flaming this whole thing, man. Call me a firebender right now. They took something that was so meaningful and made it so, they almost belittled it and disrespected how significant the Tales of Bossing Say were. They even, like, going back to Saga, his whole, like, haiku thing with Toph for some reason versus Toph and Katara having their, how to
girls moment,
girls moment, like Women's Day kind of thing, right? And then freaking Aang is not like on the search for like Appa and Momo because they're kind of already there, and like they already, or more so Appa, but like he doesn't have his whole thing of his connection with the creatures there, and he makes the whole zoo thing, and like shows off his like earthbending and his airbending, his mastery of the elements, you can say. They took my Tales of Bossing Say and they chewed it up and spit it out, and in this whole new context that they're doing, with Sai and Amita, they're just being more characters to Team Avatar, and Teo, who I don't even recall seeing like almost this entire season or something like that because he went out to go do his own thing, versus him and Sai just being on their own like in the cartoon, and the way like they all met Azula, and even Azula herself, and Azula making Ty Lee and May like fight each other, like to test their loyalty, like everything. Like I just don't get the same significance and meaning and care and compassion and depth from the live action from the cartoon. And I'm like, shouldn't the live action could have been better executed if they did that like more? Like, it's almost, you have the source material, why do we need to like make our own version of it where the blueprint's already right there? I think they just the way they've done it has just screwed it up so much more than what I was hoping for.
Well, yeah,
and I was just gonna say, I almost regret asking you to do this with me all over again.
Well, I was gonna say they had potential with Iroh, because in season 1 of the live action, they showed that funeral scene with Lieutenant, Iroh, and Zuko, and that was a good moment that you, me, and Jaeger thought about, because it showed a level of compassion in Zuko for his uncle. So it was like, okay, that's cool. That wasn't in the animated series. But then when it came to how they introduced it in season 2, like you said, it really falls flat, really messes it up. Other things about it, in Serpent's Way, like we talked about earlier, Appa was there the whole time.
The whole time.
They totally messed it up, because they showed Appa transporting Sai and some of the older people across Serpent's Way. So there's no reason they couldn't have done multiple trips, because it's not like Appa doesn't fly fast, not like Serpent's Way is that large that it'll take multiple days to peruse, and then they could have bypassed the whole serpent, dragon, water serpent, Gyarados thing anyway.
And then they do the whole thing with healing it. I just wasn't like
well, 1, 2 in that episode, Aang's characterization is so bad. He's afraid of water bending. Like, one, he learns waterbending off screen in between season 1 and season 2.
Yep.
And then he has fear to learn healing, which make no sense. Like, why is he so reserved? And really throughout this entire series, he's not really characterized and depicted as a hero and as our protagonist and how he should be. And it really messes up because obviously the kid has had a growth spurt. And in episode 1, it kind of proved to me that they weren't super confident in the show because he says nothing for like the first 5 to 10 minutes and he's there on the screen. And then he gets that moment with Katara, Sokka, and Suki, and his voice is noticeably different. And they have that line where it's like, oh yeah, it's been so long, and oh, it looks like you've grown a bit since we last saw each other. So they're trying to make it work in universe. But when you have that the guy who played Aang clearly go through like puberty, his voice change, it loses the level of innocence that Aang has in the animated series because now you can tell he's a young adult. And they even have a funny line that just doesn't work in that Serpent's Way episode where there's a kid who stops on the rocks and he's like, oh, I'm scared, I'm just a kid. And then Aang says, well, I'm just a kid too. I laughed, dude. I was like, no, you're not, bro. You're not a kid anymore. Like,
if he's a kid, I'm in the grave. That's what it is.
But yeah, it just doesn't work. And then in tying that in with the Ba Sing Se plot point, how it works in the animated show, they didn't have Appa at that point in episode 12 of the animated series.
That's why they couldn't like use Appa, and they had to fight the serpent.
And then when you see what happens to Appa in Appa Alone, Tales of Ba Sing Se with Momo, and how every time Azula shows up on screen, it's something menacing. It's her dastardly scheming nature. Because she comes across the Kyoshi warriors who saves Appa, but then they tell Appa to go away, and that's how he gets into Ba Sing Se. Then you see Team Azula, they were able to defeat the Kyoshi warriors, and the next time you see them, they're already in Ba Sing Se. So it's like, oh my gosh, Azula's just like unstoppable in the animated show, and it just makes her character seem way more menacing than basically the entitled... Oh, you were going to say something?
No, like the entitled, murderous, psycho. I'm going to kill my brother. Like, now I'm conflicted because of my mother. Like, I'm just going to make my friends kill each other just to see if they're loyal to me. Whole plot. I'm like, what is with, I guess like number 3. Like, what is with this Azula? Like, I don't get the same, like, tactical menace that she is in the cartoon versus in the live action. It feels like she's kind of just like a psycho killer, just do whatever I want, daddy issues kind of type or something. And I'm like, that doesn't hit the same because like that doesn't warrant respect. That warrants like fear to a certain degree. While as in the cartoon, she was respected. She was a firebending prodigy who wasn't only a beast on the field, she was a beast on the war table as well. And I'm not getting that like in the same way in the live action. And I can respect, I think that the way the actress portrays Azula, she's trying to keep it as close to the cartoon as possible, but it just doesn't hit. Like the way that
it works to her detriment because it comes across as an actor trying to be like the animated Azula versus an actor who actually embodies what Azula is. And one, to talk about the casting, totally miscast. And that was a big criticism we had in our season 1 review, that this is not Azula, physically and figuratively. She's way too chubby. She doesn't look like Azula. Somebody who does is probably too old for the role. Do you know Anna Akana?
Anna Akana as Azula?
I mean, she's too old for what they were doing in the show because it's obviously kids, but yeah, she has the more look that's slender and not chubby, square looking. Mai was completely miscast. She is not the build of Mai. And even Zuko's other interest, Jin, she looks way too old for Zuko. It's like, what are you doing? Oh. And then the line that they have with Faye and the other the kid who in the animated show is Lee, but I forget what they call him in here.
Which one?
When Zuko is helping build the house and do the dishes for Faye and the kid.
Yes, yeah.
Because that girl technically looks more like May than the girl who they cast for May, even though the acting is really all across the board for the show. Like even Katara, like she has moments in this live action where it looks like she breaks and she's kind of like breaking character, and some of the line delivery of Faye wasn't good, but it was just miscast for so much of it. And even like Ty Lee was she's all right. Zuko as a kid, he's clearly Filipino, when as an adult, he's not Filipino. And then Azula as a kid, kind of makes sense, but facial structure completely changes. And then the whole backstory between Azula, the mom, Ozai, they tried to make Azula more sympathetic, but they totally miss what she is in the animated show that made her probably one of my favorite characters. That she's so ruthless and focused on being a perfectionist, and that she doesn't really care about Zuko's actions. She just focused on her own motives. Versus in this show, and a big criticism that we had, that she came across way more as petty in season 1, and in this season 2, she's just reckless. And they try to construct the scenes to make it seem like she's smart and she's 5 steps ahead of everybody, but it's so contrived in this live action because she wants to pin May and Ty Lee against one another when they're already loyal to her. And in the animated show, she smartly alters May's career path to make it more hard for her to do what she wants to do and make it better for what Azula wants to do.
And with Ty Lee, she makes
Ty Lee, because of the circus stuff.
I can't remember how May, pardon me. I don't remember the cartoon as much as you probably do.
Yeah, so what happens is May's family conquered and was given Omashu. But then May's just so uninterested because she's basically the goth, nothing in this world matters kind of character in the show. So when Azula asks her to join in, she's like, oh yeah, awesome. But then they also have a plot line of where May's younger brother gets stolen by the rebels who have the Avatar. And Azula doesn't realize that they're fighting the Avatar until it's that first confrontation in Omashu where they're fighting on the conveyor belt stone thing. And that's how May joins Team Azula. But then with
Ty Lee, she messes with her in her circus career.
Yeah.
And it kind of becomes a whole all right, I'm testing you, Ty Lee, what are you gonna do? And all this kind of stuff, right?
Well, she's way more cunning in the animated show because Ty Lee says that, oh no, I really am, this is my aura's never been brighter. This is what I'm supposed to do in the circus. But then Azula's like, okay, that's totally fine, but definitely put on a great show for me tonight. Because Ty Lee doesn't expect Azula to come, but through Azula's strategy, she manipulates the circus act, lights the
safety net on fire.
Safety net on fire. She unleashes all the beasts. And obviously Ty Lee's a skillful acrobatist, so she is able to overcome those things. But then when Azula says, oh yeah, I'm looking forward to your show tomorrow, hopefully it's even better, Ty Lee, understandably, wants to join Team Azula because she knows that Azula just wants her to join her team. And every time you see Team Azula in the animated series, they're a force to be reckoned with. And Azula's conveyed way more as a smart character. Even how she confronts Long Feng and the Dai Li, it's way more satisfying, fulfilling, and compelling in the animated show because she uses the Dai Li against Long Feng. Yeah. And the Dai Li begin to respect her because she's ruthless. She's not a psychopath who kills generals willy-nilly. How they
literally did. And the thing, she just lightning bent all of them. And I had to rewind that because I was like, did she just kill all of them?
Yeah. And then she lit Judy on fire. Versus because that's how they figure out she's a firebender at first. Versus how they did it in the animated show, she tells Ty Lee and May to talk about how they're firebenders trying to conquer Ba Sing Se, knowing that the Dai Li are listening. And that leads to the Dai Li apprehending them, bringing them to Long Feng because they're loyal to Long Feng instead of the Earth King. And then Azula already knows this about Long Feng and the Dai Li.
It reminds me of a line that hit for me. I remember as a kid when I was just terrified of Azula. Longfang is like, "You beaten me at my own game," and then Azula's like, "You're not even a player," and it was like, shoot.
Yeah.
That didn't happen. Azula just killed everybody and put her own like Fire Nation in or something like that. And then, yeah, Longfang.
And then they don't have the drill of Ba Sing Se's outer wall at all.
They didn't have the drill. Yeah, that was the biggest.
That was one of my favorite parts
not?
about book 2, because you see Aang and Katara use the water to cut through the metal, and then it's my favorite action scene of Aang when he
when he like drops into. But then you also see like Aang versus Azula for the first time, and how he like low-key outplays her just by like sticking to his roots, I guess you could say, and like his mastery of earthbending. But they didn't do the drill. I know, it was such a...
And then that also doesn't help convince King Kwai at the end, because that's a big selling point for King Kwai, even though that whole interaction in the animated series is a little clunky, how they convince King Kwai to join the battle against the Fire Nation. But then it works because it's how Azula gets back into the picture after we see what happens with the Tales of Ba Sing Se, how she commandeered the Kyoshi identity. So it's just a mess of...
And then real quick, like with Azula, and I think when she confronted Suki and the Kyoshi warriors, there was a moment where like Azula like lightning bends and like Suki like hits it with a fan. I was like,
Suki should be dead, based on
Suki
how they
should have
characterize.
been exploded into a million pieces if that happened. But it was like that classic, hi-ya! And I was like, no. In the cartoon, it was like when they found Appa, and then Azula like caught onto him. It was like this super cool still like about to like navigate around her, and I don't think that they I feel like they did the lightning too quick. Like now Azula just only does lightning basically or something. Like it wasn't like brought up as like a very like high level form of firebending. Azula just able to kind of just do it, and it's like, okay, why doesn't she just use lightning all the time now or something like that? And you don't like that puts like a tactical advantage for her over everybody else that just makes it seem like almost unbeatable to a certain degree. And so it's like, what would Suki even do like in this fight, right?
Well, yeah, based on how they characterize Azula, Suki should be dead. And then even at the end of season 1 of the live action, I believe they showed Azula lightning bending at the end versus what you get introduced to her as in animated book 2. Mm-hmm. She's practicing her bending and she's off by a hair. And that's what her aunties basically tell her, is like, oh, excellent, but off by a hair. And she's furious about it because she's a perfectionist. So it already tells you so much about her character. And it's just everything that they did with Azula.
Everything that they're just doing.
My 1B favorite character completely missed the mark. And
in the quick side with the bending too, I haven't seen Zuko use fire daggers yet. Is that like not a thing? Did that happen in season 1? I can't even remember. Nope. But Zuko was always like, and just like the fire coming out, just like ready to. What are they doing, Jared? I'm sorry I made you watch this, man. I just don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, again, it was just very disheartening because they tried to make Azula sympathetic because both she and Zuko see their mom being taken away when that didn't happen, because Zuko's not supposed to know what happened to his mom because she just disappears. And they try to make Azula sympathetic in that she wanted to be getting more attention by her mom, and it just doesn't work in the live action. Even her attempts to win Zuko back to her side at the end of the show in the live action, it rings hollow because she has him right there to kill him with her blue fire.
How long are we gonna play this game when you've been loyal to your dad this whole time? Like,
which is also weird because Ozai actually wanted to redeem Zuko in episode 1 of live action episode 1, season 2, because he sends Azula to just bring him back because he says, no, my family needs to be back in order. Zuko is no longer cast away. But then in the animated show, he sends Azula to capture him as a prisoner for violating his decree or whatever. So it's just a mess. And even in that sequence, in that flashback for Zuko, he kills the wrong dragon. He kills the red dragon.
He killed the red one. Yeah, he killed the red dragon.
Which is supposed to be representative of Iroh, the good one, in the animated. obviously they don't contextualize it the same way in the live action, but it's like those details are just missed, and it's like the show just doesn't know what it didn't realize the meaningfulness of the animated.
And then they just throw them in whenever they can in the new context that they made, and it's just kind of like, this is just messy. Like they do the tale of the two dragons, and I'm like, wasn't there two dragons, but that like Aang and Zuko were supposed to learn fire bending from? Is that what we're doing right now? And then he kills the red one, and it was just like, isn't that the dragon that Zuko feels most affinity towards or something? Did they just keep the blue dragon alive because Zuko's also the blue spirit or something like that? And it was just such a whole. And then Azula's interpretation of like the two dragons thing is like, these dragons were brothers. It's like, oh, I have to kill Zuko now. And it was like, it's odd because it's like,
it just seems like the show just doesn't realize what they're doing with the Azula character. Like, you want to make her a ruthless, very driven, strong woman, but you're just making her
very cold.
But you're just making her a psychopath that's reckless and gets that the plot happens for her by convenience alone, rather than skillful deliberation. So it was just a mess. And obviously we could talk a lot more about Azula. Like they messed up too when she in that first meeting where she's like, oh, I've given up, but then she shoots Iroh.
Yeah.
She hits him with lightning.
Yeah. In
the heart. And he survives.
Instead of fire, right?
Instead of fire like they did in the animated show.
And if we're going to finish out with just one more point here on Azula, when she fires lightning at Aang in the Avatar state, I remember seeing a thing about how like Aang's wounds were like from his back into his foot, because like the lightning traveled through, but there was like a symbolism behind it of like Aang never kept in mind like what was coming or something like that. I don't know. It was like a parallel between Zuko and Aang, where Zuko faced his whole thing like head on and got burned for it, and then like Aang kept avoiding it and got shot in his back like with the lightning. And,
because in the animated, he's raising up in the Avatar state because he let go of Katara, and how it's seemingly framed is he's in a different place. So when he's raising up, Azula's technically behind him. So she shoots him with the lightning because he's none the wiser, and he thinks he's invincible in the Avatar state. Obviously, he knows that if he dies in the Avatar state, it's all over, but he didn't think that would happen.
And then you have his whole Avatar state at the end of the fight where he has them all. He's like choking out Azula and then just throws her, and then Azula just shoots lightning like that. Like, I'm like, doesn't lightning have like a cultivation time where you had to shoot
it's also weird because he's able to dodge lightning. He dodges her first strike. So he's technically able to be so fast that he dodges lightning. But then it was part of me that was conflicted because I almost like that because you saw Aang being ruthless, because that's kind of how they were characterizing him in the live action, that he's regretful, very reserved about his power. Yeah. They didn't really earn it because they didn't show him being fearful of using the Avatar state. They didn't earn that. So then by the end, when he used it, you're convinced that, dude, you had multiple opportunities to kill Azula, which he doesn't really have a problem with killing people when it's the Fire Nation, conveniently. But
and he almost you see how many times he's activated the Avatar state. It's like, where's Appa? Avatar state.
Without any real consequences. So you don't believe him when he's supposed to be conflicted about not wanting to use it, because he doesn't get the context about using it in the outer rim of Ba Sing Se when the general wants to trigger it.
Forces him into it after pretending to kill Katara, and he just freaks out. And it's
you don't get it with the Sandbenders when he's vengeful about Appa.
Yeah, and that whole sequence.
Let's do it. I posted about it on X. It's not my most frustrating part about the show, but it's definitely one of them.
There's just so much to be frustrated about, and it makes me feel bad because it's nobody's it's just an execution, on a fault on execution, honestly. But I know all the actors are trying their best. There's part of me that wants to believe the benefit of the doubt. They're all looking to do a faithful adaptation, and I felt that there were good opportunities where they could have, and they had the chance, but then they just didn't. It just didn't go well.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not as charitable because they literally have the animated one they could adapt one for one and just add a little more context to the scenes. But instead, like we talked about earlier, they recontextualize events to try to tell their own story, but also with some of the events that fans will know. And by doing that, they messed up the whole thing. Like the details that they had with the library sequence, it should not be in Bossing Say. Zay should not be an antagonistic character to Team Avatar. Yeah. And then why does Jet need to be there? You take away his sacrificial event. You take away the
brainwashing.
Brainwashing, that's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
You take away the brainwashing by the Dai Li to show their prowess, just to have him leave his friends, and then one of his friends' helmet is in the library.
That didn't make sense at all. I was like, oh, so they just died in the library too or something? Like, what? So everyone can just find the spiritual library?
Yeah, and then, like I was talking about on X, the reason that the animated show was so impactful, because they established that this is a weakness for Toph. She can barely see in the sand because all the vibrations she feels in the earth are distorted because the sands are millions of particles, and that's why she can't help Appa. She even reinforces the sand to make it more stable to hold up the library.
The library. Oh, what a good scene. Yeah. And then in this one, she's all talking about you need to feel the earth and you got to feel the vibrations, everything. They're on normal ground. She's holding up the library and she can't take out the whatever was kidnapping Appa. And after like establishing herself as like the super awesome like earthbender that she is, she's not able to multitask that way.
They also established that she's able to bend from long distances because she said
whole, like move the data around, and it's like,
yep,
okay, like this is one of the moments where I was thinking it's just kind of one of those like they did it just to kind of like, oh yeah, this is like in the cartoon too, and like no, it doesn't work because one, you're not in sand in the middle of nowhere, and like two, you're in Bossing Say, like you're in a city, like. Who's to say Toph couldn't just like put like pillars up or something to like reinforce the already the already foundational library that was already there, and then just go take out whatever was taking out Appa,
or shield Appa. Like, she can sense what the show seems to say is that the Dai Li are getting Appa, so she can put a barrier around
or
Appa.
even just like walls like in between them, and then just hold the thing again, or freaking that kind of just reminds me of another point, but like finishing out with Toph too. If she's such a master, earthbending master, and able to like feel all the vibrations and everything like that, then why couldn't she sense that they were coming or something? Like, okay, yeah, you can argue like her focus was all on the library, but as soon as Appa starts like resisting, she hears it. Why can't she just like focus the attention or like split the attention between the two?
It's like they had they nerfed her abilities, and they selected when they wanted her to be capable and when they didn't want her to be capable.
And this brings into one more point that I kind of have to gripe about. Like we just been grilling the show for the last like hour.
Oh, keep going. I still have more.
Oh, absolutely. Appa and Momo. I almost didn't mind. Like it didn't hit me that Appa was being kidnapped because they've been gone from the show the entire time. Maybe like little snippets every now and then, but they don't establish that him and that Aang and Appa are super close. They're like the last like bits of like the air nomads and all that kind of stuff. They need each other. They grew up together, all that kind of stuff. They only did that like twice. Like I didn't feel for Appa as much as I did in the cartoon because they didn't establish that relationship. I was just like, oh, they're kidnapping Appa now. Okay, like fine.
Well, I was gonna say, outside of the Appa alone episode, they completely shrunk the episode where Azula's team is tracking Appa because he's shedding. And they took that away from the live action, which is a hugely important episode for Appa and Team Avatar because they're trying to figure out how to work with one another, but they're also stressed out because they're all tired because Azula's very relentless about pursuing them. And you see Azula's cunning and strategy because Aang tries to give Azula the slip by creating two divergent paths for one where Appa's going and where he leads Azula to. And that's how she figures out Azula is Zuko's sister. But it just doesn't work because they already shrunk it. They said, oh, this looks like Appa's fur in the live action, and falls short.
Just, it all falls so short, Jared. I was so like, I think I like what you said at the very beginning of our conversation about the show, because it felt like they're just doing things from the last Airbender cartoon to just do them. Like, you can talk about the spiritual library, you can talk about Jet, you can talk about Zuko on his date with Jin. You can even talk about Appa being kidnapped. You can talk about Tales of Ba Sing Se. All these little elements in the live action, they just kind of dropped into it because they all know, oh, these are very significant things of the cartoon. Like, they'll like it. But then it's like, no, they are significant moments, but we liked it because of how they were worked up to, how they were built, how they had meaning and effect and consequence. And God, they butchered the Lu-10 like leaves from the vine moment too, and the whole thing. And then friggin' the White Lotus, like Iroh is just now joining the White Lotus instead of it being this band of elderly benders that are all powerful. And
because the animated show makes it seem like they were trying to figure out a way to re-navigate the world back to peace while Aang was away. But then now Aang is back. They're trying to work with Aang in book 3 to make the world what it used to be. And it's unfortunate because you think about, like, of all the changes you make to this live action, what did it give you? It gave you a worse show. You didn't improve the material. And the one that I was most frustrated about was the affirmation of Zuko's victim mentality. In episode 5, Zuko and Iroh confront one another because Iroh has his conversations and his change of heart. So he says, Zuko, we've put this off for too long. We need to talk. Because Zuko, basically the last time they saw each other in the live action, Zuko's belligerent and disrespectful self tells off Iroh in like episode 1. And then in episode 5, they're meeting each other again. And Zuko goes, I literally wrote it down. He's like, I was angry. I wasn't right to blame you for what's happened to me. And Iroh says, no, it was right. Everything you said was right. This was the moment that I said that I literally got so close to cursing. I was like, oh, F you, dude. Like, this was so stupid. You're affirming Zicto's blaming that everything in his life is not his fault, that it's all because of Iroh and Iroh's inability to stand up against his father. Oh, if you didn't stand up against my dad, then I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have this scar. We wouldn't be picking melon berries or whatever he says, and I would still be back at home. It's just like, this is stupid that the show is affirming Zuko's mentality that nothing is his fault, that he's not accountable to his own actions. And obviously, if it wasn't clear already, the show lost me in episode 1. But then by the time they continue to, you said it first, Jed, they continue to bastardize the animated show. You get that in episode 5, and it's like, you just completely don't understand Zuko. You completely don't understand the dynamics of why the animated show was so good. And it really is, again, it might not be as sinister as I'm making it out to be, but there are like no good adult role models in the show. Iroh was completely mishandled.
Right.
Ozai's obviously the bad guy. They try to do something with Zuko's mom, but even that dynamic between her and Ozai just doesn't make sense because you're willingly joining this guy you think is a monster or abusive or very conniving and evil, but you want to marry this guy. And then her dialogue about Zuko just being soft it's like I just didn't buy that argument that they had. And then Sai, he's basically like, Sai is a sad boy because when you see him at the end of the show and he's like giving up on
everything, he's depressed, like in the crystal tomb or crystal jail cells or something like that. And then Sokka comes around and like revitalizes him or something.
Well, he's like, oh, I learned so much from Teo and you are my teacher. It's like, none of these adults bring value of their own to the story. And with the girl that they introduce for no reason.
Amita. I think it was
Amita.
linear
Oh my
timing,
gosh.
right?
They really tried to position Katara as the main character for the show because they have that line in the beginning where Katara is like affirming and teaching Aang. She does that in an animated series, which is fine, but then there's that interaction she has with Amita that basically alludes her to be the painted lady, and then she has all those moments in between the show. Some of them check her on her trustfulness, but then she has that moment with King Kwai where she's the one who teaches King Kwai to change his mind.
Will always like be there unless you take care of him or something.
Uh-huh.
Where's like the sacred proverb or like the knowledge from Aang? Is Aang just like a temperamental like teenager that just wants to find his giant like flying bison? It's such a weird.
And then, dude, there was that line of dialogue between Amita and Aang when she's helping him hide out. She says, Katara's the reason we're all fighting. I was like, what are you guys doing?
That. Isn't the Avatar the one supposed to be saving the whole world?
Yeah, it's after they all fight, which was a stupid scene. The four-way fight between Aang, Katara, Sokka, and Toph, where they're all arguing with each other about, oh, well, you did this wrong. Well, you did this, and you trusted him. And it's just like, this is so stupid.
I do agree with you, but for me, I'd have to give a little credit on that, because that was like my only inkling of like, okay, look, now these like these tactical masterminds of Long Feng and Azula to a certain degree have like succeeded in planting seeds of discourse in Team Avatar. Like that is like a strategy to kind of like win, I guess you could say. And for me to see that play out in a successful way, in a concordance with Long Feng's character of being like that behind the scenes pulling strings kind of type, and like, you know, missing like playing with like the meaning or the interpretation of certain things, I was like, okay, this makes sense for where we are, but why are we here? Like that, like,
well, my rebuttal to that,
like, what's up?
My rebuttal to that is that Azula and Long Feng didn't do that to any of them. It's all introductions of this own story, because Toph's family, who are apparently capitalists, who are all bad because they're billionaires, and billionaires are evil, and anybody who makes a lot of money is evil. This is what the show is trying to say. So they introduce a plot line to where they have that Fire Nation. They introduce a plot line to where the Fire Nation is being funded by Toph's.
By the Beifongs. And then it was the Beifongs fund the Fire Nation. Katara was like stealing to do the painted lady stuff.
Robin Hood, she's stealing from the rich, giving to the poor. Yep. And then
Sokka's was
he conspires with a traitor.
What was that?
They say that he killed Zai.
Yeah, he killed Zai, but also kept it all like kept secrets from the group or something. And then Aang has just been trusting Long Feng too much.
Yeah, so it's all like these just stupid plot lines that they tried to use to get people to we need Team Avatar to be against one another, so by the end they can all rejoin one another. It's just like, this is stupid. You didn't earn it.
That's where we're separated a little bit. That's where I like give a little bit, you give nothing.
Yeah, I'm giving them nothing because they didn't earn that. All right, Jed, we've clearly had a lot of rants to say, and there's plenty of other criticisms about this show that we could dive into way more. I really didn't like how they introduced Toph. They completely mishandled.
Agreed. No,
okay. I thought you were asking me to pause.
We don't like Toph, how they introduced her.
Well, we don't like anybody. We don't like anyone in this show. Yeah. Even Momo's not safe.
Momo's not doing anything.
Well, they took away the tail of Bossing Say, where Momo figures out where Appa is.
I know. So don't like Toph, don't like Azula, don't like Iroh, don't like the
Mei,
Sokka.
Jin, Aang, Sokka, Katara, Long Feng, King Kwai.
How Katara is kind of becoming more the main character. How Aang is just kind of like a temperamental like kid. How the Avatar state is just like an emotional connection to just piss him off. That happens when he gets pissed off and all that kind of stuff. Zuko is being victim affirmation, all that kind of thing, right? Just fire off. Just fire off. Yeah.
But there's one character I wanted to get your thoughts on. What did you think about the Boulder?
Oh, the Boulder.
It doesn't matter what you think about the boulder. I'm kidding.
I think that adaptation, I think it was kind of funny, but I just, again, like as an Avatar like cartoon purist, it was just a weird like, oh, this is kind of fun. Like this is how they're doing the boulder, I guess you could say. But when Aang gets into the ring and they kind of start teaching him, I was like, the boulder does not teach the Avatar how to earthbend. The blind bandit does.
Yeah.
The boulder is looking to fight. I wish that they did the little thing where Toph like moves his foot right as he's about to plant it, and he like splits.
And then he splits.
And he just goes like, ooh, and then like shoots him out of the ring. They made him a bit more of a character than needed. He was a minor character in the cartoon, and he didn't need to be more of a character. But then when they hired him on to be part of the group to retrieve Toph, that was weird. Because I was like, wasn't that the Beifong handler and then like the announcer of the Earth Rumble, not the boulder itself? So
it's Toph's earthbending teacher.
Toph's earthbending teacher, and then the announcer. But I was like, okay, I guess they're using the boulder for some reason, but that was a little weird in itself. I know at one point in the cartoon, the handler and the teacher, or the MC and the teacher, hired those like goons from Earth Rumble to go fight them, but like Toph like obliterates them all like one by one, and that's where we see like the boulder again. But like she takes out the boulder, the weird like wrestling guy, even like the Fire Nation like dude,
the fake wrestle Fire Nation,
and the hippo, right? But the way they did it in the live action, where he kind of becomes more of a character and they kind of involve him in like retrieving Toph, I was like, okay, I guess they're gonna bring in the boulder, I suppose. But there's a whole thing of like teaching Aang, and like that whole thing where it was like the boulder was telling him one thing, Toph was telling him one thing. I feel like there was another character that was telling him another thing.
That was the handler.
The handler. Oh yeah, and it's like, why are we doing this? Like, what is?
Well, it's also stupid because the handler clearly knows that Toph was going back to the Earth Rumble, but then he also is subservient to the Beifongs, who don't know that at all. But it's funny, I only brought that up just to do the rock bit because the boulder's supposed to be the rock. Except in this one, he's fat, which is... I mean, at least he was kind of jacked, which was okay, I guess. I wish he was just a jacked dude like he is in the...
Yeah, as he should... Yeah, it was more and more bastardizations of the cartoon that we love.
Yeah, but I actually wasn't planning on talking about that all that much.
Okay, that's fine.
As we bring our very lengthy rant and I would say a therapeutic session
I feel about
this disheartening show, you wanted to talk a little more about adaptation and basically your thoughts on why these adaptations from things we've loved in our childhood keep happening. So I'll let you go. What are your thoughts?
I appreciate the time and platform. The Gist with Jared. I'll give y'all the gist about my thoughts around that, right? The root of my problems with the live action is that it is a live action adaptation of a cartoon that we know and love and hold dearly as kids who grew up like watching this show, right? And we're adults now, and there is the idea of like, oh, cool, like they are doing a live action adaptation of this show. But the question that I find myself asking a lot more as these adaptations come out with Avatar, we even had The Last of Us, we even had Halo, right? That was one that we talked about last time. We have Mortal Kombat, the movie's coming up. We even have a Street Fighter movie coming up. It's like, why do we do this? Like, why is there a need or a behoovement, I think maybe a word, of these companies to make live action adaptations of the cartoons that we know and love that are good in their mediums already. You mentioned it earlier where in the cartoon for Avatar, there's a suspension of disbelief of the exaggerated emotions and the execution of style and probably combat within the Avatar cartoon that makes it work, right? There's the timing of what happens in these episodes where you can grow and learn to love these characters and develop a relationship with them that works. Now you're trying to jam pack it all within an hour-long live action episode where characters are being portrayed by people that don't even really look like them. And that is a burden that you have to face head on when you choose to do a live action adaptation of something, because you even mentioned yourself, Azula doesn't look like Azula. May doesn't look like May. I would even argue the scarring on Zuko isn't that bad, because both of his eyes are still open. Like, it's not really, like, I don't see it and be like, oh, that's terrible. I almost see it and I'm like, oh, there's a scar there. Like, I barely saw it, right? And that's what makes it hard for me to try to enjoy live action adaptations, is because there's a standard that you have to meet that kind of hits along on the grounds of whatever the cartoon or whatever the source material is, and you have to make it work somehow. I think I almost want to parallel it with the live action adaptation of The Last of Us. We had a little bit of a constraint towards it, but I'll go back. I'm pretty sure I mentioned this on your YouTube channel before, but the adaptation or the storyline with Bill, right? He was a minor-ish character in the video game, and then when you explore who he is more in the live action, that was pretty good. I was like, oh, I felt compelled by that. And in Avatar, they're doing it the other way, which I would argue is the wrong way, where they just put people into these roles and just sprinkle in whatever was cool in the cartoon, as opposed to giving it a depth and a story. I think the only example I can think of within Avatar, if you were to take the live action route, would be to explore the relationship with Zuko's mom more. And they almost did it, but then you barely, you didn't do it well, right?
Right.
In the cartoon, you don't get much of Zuko's mom. You only get the part that, yeah, she had a bit more of an affinity for Zuko. She was more compassionate and caring than the Fire Lord. And that caused a little bit of a schism between the Fire Lord and Azula and Zuko and his mom. If there was some type of similarity where they explore it kind of like with Bill and his whole story, and you do Zuko's mom and her story, that could make it more of a compelling narrative of why Zuko and Zuko and Azula have a bit more of a butting heads kind of thing.
Contentious relationship.
There you go, right? Because you can see that Azula, or even you explore Azula and the Fire Lord, only them two, right? What if there was a thing where you see Zuko and his mom kind of being more closer together, and then you see Azula and the Fire Lord being explored more together? That would even give characterization to the Fire Lord. Let me cook. I'm cooking. What if you give more time to the Fire Lord to show how he is as a father and not just a ruler? And then you see it's oh shit, in the same way. Sorry, you might need to bleep that.
It's fine.
What if you see the same way they kind of humanize Zuko or the Fire Nation as a whole in I think book 4 of the cartoon, you humanize the Fire Lord as well, and then you're conflicted watching the live action oh shoot, he's actually he's trying as a father, but then he also wants to provide for his people and as much as he can, or something like that, right? Someone put me in the writing room. Let me help him out real quick, or something like that, right? There's a difference between live action adaptations that are good and bad, and I think it lies in how do you explore the world more in depth than what you get from the source material in the live action. And that's something that we see done well and executed well with The Last of Us, and this may be
season 1,
a bit of hot take, huh?
Season 1 of The Last of Us.
Season 1 of The Last of Us, I understand, yeah. But even the Sonic movies, they're kind of just fun. And you could even almost argue the Super Mario movie. It's just fun. It doesn't take itself so seriously, but it also shows oh, Mario and Luigi came from a real world, and then the whole Mushroom Kingdom is this otherworldly place or something, and it kind of works. It was just fun, and it was good for what it was. But then you get to freaking Halo. You have Master Chief take off his helmet in the first really? Okay. Live action adaptation. You make Zuko and Iroh's relationship a farce, where he's just a temperamental little kid, right? Okay, fine. That's what you did with that. Mortal Kombat. Well, I know we have the Mortal Kombat Annihilation close to our hearts, growing up with it as kids, but I would even say for the most recent Mortal Kombat movie, having their powers based on armor or something like that. Do you know what I'm talking about? How?
Oh, they introduced it in the first Mortal Kombat, where it's your Arcana. Your Arcana give you your power, but then they totally abandoned that in the second one.
But then Kano was the character he is in the video games, and so it's a whole weird. When you choose to do a live action adaptation, you're taking something that people know and love and putting a real life spin on it, and that begets you a very scrutinizing eye, and that's why we're here today, because they
Pop
failed.
quiz, Jed.
What's up?
Which is longer in terms of minutes for Avatar? Season 2 live action or Book 2 animated? Which is longer?
Season 2 cartoon.
You're actually correct.
I knew it.
But it's not by much. So the animated, if you take out all the intros, like the previously and all the yeah, it's 451 minutes of Book 2.
Okay.
In the live action, it's 444 minutes.
444 minutes of trash.
Which is so funny because how they constructed the show, like we talked about earlier, they recontextualize and reorganize the events in the story, and it didn't give them a more fulfilling world, a more fulfilling story.
Yeah.
And the moments that they used to try to inject their own elements of nuance or possible enhancement of the source material, they didn't work. Because part of me feels like they didn't understand what made the animated show so praised.
Exactly.
A lot of people criticize AI nowadays, but I think AI probably would have written a better script or a better retelling of the live action. Like if you asked AI, how can you enhance the animated show into a live action adaptation? What story elements should we expand on further that the fans wanted to hear more about? Oh, well, maybe you do an entire episode or half an episode of a live action that's dedicated to the backstory of the fire family. Instead of what we got was a really mishandled storytelling of the backstory of the fire family.
Agreed.
Or let's remove the events so where we have people in places that they weren't in the animated series that just don't make sense.
I think that just makes me think, since the minutes of both season 2 live action and book 2 cartoon are almost the same, that shows it's not impossible to have a story and like good depth within like these boundaries, but it's just a matter of execution, and it was just executed.
Well, and that brings up what you were talking about earlier, and I think it's just these people in Hollywood are very risk averse. They don't want to tell a brand new story, because if you saw Obsession, that was an entirely that's not your kind of thing, but $750,000, very cheap to make in terms of Hollywood spending. Made almost, I think it's over almost 400 million in terms of its box office production.
Wow.
Crazy.
Wow. That's
basically a young creator wanting to do his own thing and telling a good, fairly simple but earnest story. But then you have, similarly, you brought up Super Mario. The second one, there's apparently a ton of lore behind the Super Mario Galaxy universe and how all like the stars impact and create life and all that.
Oh, cool.
Did they tell that in the animated movie? No, but it's not a substantive movie. But when we were growing up, we had movies like The Lion King, Hercules, Cars, Toy Story. They just made a fifth one that's basically a retelling of the first one. But they just missed the mark because they want to remake things of old to get people buying tickets, buying merch, buying stuff based on nostalgia and what they felt like when they were young. But they don't realize what made the original material so valuable and so meaningful to people.
Gotcha,
it's like what they did with Star Wars. Oh, we have episode 7. Basically, it's just going to be episode 4, but now with Rey. And most people who are very devout Star Wars fans don't really like how that played out because that's a whole nother conversation in and of itself.
We'll review Star Wars soon, huh? Star Wars Sundays.
I don't know about that. But it's like what you were saying. They miss the mark and don't understand the spirit of what made the source material work. I brought up A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms earlier. They pretty much adapted that one for one. You brought up Halo. Halo is a really, not laborious, but expansive world that has plenty of detail about it. That they wanted to tell their own story in the skin of a Halo show. And by doing so, they miss the mark. And it really begs the question, do these people know who their target audience is? When you think about making an Avatar live action show, your target audience is going to be the fans of the show, who are basically 10, maybe even 20 years older at this point from when it came out.
Absolutely.
When it was animated, but now you're doing it live action.
Yeah.
So what do? Well, let me show them what looks to be their show in live action, but then miss the mark on all the things that made it valuable. And there's plenty of information online about what the fans wanted more of from the animated series that you could have added or enhanced, but you didn't do it because you wanted to tell your own story, because maybe it's hubris, you think you can do it better, or maybe it's just lack of creativity and lack of the execs wanting to just do a one-for-one thing from the adaptation. And we've seen that before, because there's obviously the MCU. It's riddled with plenty of adaptations, not so much recently, that don't work, because they don't realize they don't want to cater to their target audience. They want to make things that appeal to way too many people, and by appealing to a vast majority, they appeal to nobody, because they're not specializing and focusing on delivering a good product to the people who would want it. But they instead want to make something that's supposed to be easily accessible and desirable to most people, but by doing so, they satisfy nobody. And it's a really unfortunate thing that I don't know if we're going to get. I don't know if it's going to get any better, Jed.
I don't know if we're going to get closure either, but we got to finish it. We got to finish this series. We got to do... we had our book 1 review. We had our book 2 review. We got to do a book 3 review where it's all over, and we got to see like how it plays out and see. I'm curious to a degree to see how it ends, but I know I'm going to have to struggle through it a little bit.
Well, yeah, Aang will probably have a beard and facial hair by the time he's shooting the next
crazy
adaptation, because he's already grown up. I obviously we'll have to circle it back for for the final book whenever it comes out in another 2 to 3 years.
If it's any last little thought, this does make me very curious to see how Henry Cavill's Warhammer 40K plays out.
Oh, you know that they introduced female Astartes now.
I know the Battle Sisters and the I can't remember their name. It's like Codex Astartes, Adept Astartes. I can't remember their name, but I do know of that. Yeah, Battle Sisters. I'm about it.
Yeah, there are plenty of red flags, but because it's Henry Cavill, I am hoping that it's good. But if you analyze patterns, Jed.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about, man. I'm worried. All right, Henry, what do you got? You say you're a Warhammer 40K fan, and I know I'm new to it, but what you got, man? Let's see it.
Well, he stood up for The Witcher, and then they kicked him out of the show because he wanted to be more faithful to the source material, and they didn't want him there. But I know you mentioned it, but Avatar Season 2, Jed, final thoughts on this live-action adaptation.
Final thoughts, Avatar live action. If you grew up on Avatar Last Airbender like Jared and I don't think you'll like it. I would not even recommend it to any new fans who are being introduced into the series. That is something that you should not start on. I don't think that they have executed properly where it captures the essence of Avatar Last Airbender cartoon in a proper way. Therefore, if you're a new fan, if you're an OG fan, just stick to the cartoon and just watch that, right? It's just slowly become territory of the Dragon Ball movie that we don't talk about, right? So we'll save this next part of the conversation for later, but if you're a new fan to Last Airbender, just stick to, or an OG fan, just stick to the cartoon. And maybe go to Legend of Korra, but we'll save that for another time.
I don't even know if that's worth it, but that's the gist for our thoughts on Avatar The Last Airbender live action Season 2 on Netflix. A series that we don't think is worthwhile, completely misses the mark on good adaptation that embodies the essence of the source material. This one you should probably just forego, because if you're an adult who this was supposed to be targeted for, you're better off watching the original animated series. And if you're a kid, you're better off watching the original animated series anyway.
Yep.
It's a show that it's not worth your time. We're probably gonna have to bear through it to see how it finishes out. But that's all we got for today. If you had any thoughts about this video, how Azula's been bastardized, how Zuko was mishandled, how Iroh was mishandled, how Sokka was done dirty, how Aang was basically a non-factor in the show, let us know what you thought about it in the comments down below. Otherwise, we'll catch you next time on The Gist.